up, everybody? This is Real Talk with Casey and JoJo. What's up, Casey?
What's up, JoJo?
Today we are talking about whether it was real or staged.
Man, that's not what we're talking about. We're not gossiping. This is not spreading gossip. We're
No.
just offering a different
We're talking about the
viewpoint.
whole Will Smith thing and how many layers there are to it. Because yes, there are people talking about whether it was staged or whether it was real, the spiritual significance of it, the Hollywood aspect of it, the conspiracies, the gematria, the big company that I'm not going to mention just in case, who is sponsoring the Oscars.
Oh, you're talking about the one that rhymes with riser?
Something. Yeah. So, you know, there's so many aspects to this. And I just wanted open up season 3 with pretty much like, let's cover all the layers, like your interpretation, what I've seen, our opinions. Why is this, like, some people are like, this doesn't matter. Why is this important? Not that it is important, because the drama aspect of it isn't important.
Right. And that's what I wanted to make sure that we're not talking about, we're not just in the soap opera.
Right. It's not the gossip version.
It's not the gossip version.
It's really more dissecting it and looking at, like, I mean, the whole world is kind of scripted already. Yes, we have free will, but really we all play our roles and characters in this game of life. If you know anything about gematria, you know pretty much almost everything is scripted, as far as like on a higher level, as like a sim level. So
hold on. What is gematria?
Gematria is, I mean, everything is numbers, right? Ones and zeros. This whole universe speaks in numbers and codes, right? So when you go to like a gematria site and you put in certain words, it'll decode it for you and give you what the actual number comes down to. And so if you start looking at the patterns of the numbers, there's a lot of things that add up and they equal certain numbers.
Hold on. So you're saying that in standard computer programming, it's zeros and ones, right? So you're saying gematria is, if I go in and put in the word orgasm, it's going to give me the 0 and 1 computation of orgasm?
It's going to give you just the number that it computes it to. So
I've never been to that website.
Really?
Never. No.
It's interesting to follow. It's just too much for me sometimes, like how everything is scripted. Like I get kind of like, okay, like let me live my life. Because I see the script, but
yeah, that's like the question of if you could know when you'd want to, if you could know, if you.
I get it. It's like the movie Free Guy. Okay, it's like, you know already, you could put the glasses on and you could see it for what it is, right. Or you could just decide to live in it, right? And sometimes putting on the glasses, it's like, okay, I see the fucking codes. I see what it is. I see the script. I see that this is all like simulated or whatever.
Yeah, it's like, as much as we complain about
but let me take the glasses off and live in it for a little bit.
Yeah, as much as we complain about it, the big joy in life is the unknown.
And to live your life, right? To learn the lessons.
Letting it unfold.
Exactly, right? Yeah. So let's talk about this. What's your take on it?
So conspiracy, I mean, so staged or not staged? I don't really give a shit, to be honest with you, whether it's staged or not staged. But if I had to answer that question, it would probably be staged, simply because a lot of it just doesn't make any sense. So my biggest take, and we'll just jump out here with my take first. Start a little soft and then get a little heavy. Right?
Okay.
You know, a lot of people, I don't know if people know, but, you know, Will Smith and Jada Pinkett have an open marriage, which is weird to me. Don't get that. No judgment. Not for me. Not for you. Right.
Right.
Confirmed.
Yeah. There's no way I'd be able to handle it. Oh my God.
But, you know, Will Smith, Jada Pinkett had a relationship with Tupac Shakur, right? The late, great Tupac. And, you know, they went to the School of Arts, I believe, in Baltimore together. You know, I don't think they were ever intimately involved. Who knows? This is just reading, you know, various articles online. But that's at least was the common theme. They weren't involved intimately, but they had like this ride or die relationship, right? Like they had a bond that was on another level. Now, Will Smith has openly talked about how that bond bothered him. That doesn't really say if it still bothers him, but based on how he behaved that night, staged or unstaged, if it's staged, whatever, but homeboy still got some issues. And I say that because, you know, again, he openly talks about like how living up to, I mean, Will Smith, if you think about it, you think about the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Will Smith, right? Happy, funny guy, you know, kind of quirky, you know, he's not a thug. Tupac is a thug, right? I mean, he obviously was deep. He obviously was very militant. He had, strong beliefs, smart guy. So don't confuse the word thug with
Yeah,
negative
no,
aspects.
no. I
He
mean,
was
shit,
just a
I'm
hard,
thug.
yeah, yeah. He was just a hardcore dude, and Will Smith is not,
Right.
and so my point in all that is that, from Will Smith's perspective, if you know that another man, especially another man that is the polar opposite in a lot of ways from you, like that's some hard shit to deal with, right? When you know that your girl, that your wife, open relationship or not, has a deep bond with somebody other than you, and you can't live up to that expectation because that's just not you, and you trying to fake the funk, like that hurts. You know what I mean? Like that.
He's trying to bring season 2 into this.
No, I'm not trying. See with that bullshit. No, I just think it's interesting because I think that's a dynamic that I didn't hear anyone mention this dynamic on a bunch of the articles that I read.
But that's because it's like a layer that they can grab onto from that to use. Like he was like a perfect person to use for what happened.
Yeah, and learning more about Will Smith, I learned some things kind of researching it that I didn't know about him. He used to be on my list of the people you invite to dinner. If you invite 10 people to dinner, who would you invite, dead or alive?
Man, that list is getting really small.
Right?
Like it's not even the same anymore.
Right. So you picture Will Smith, and if you watched it unfold, Rock tells the joke, Will Smith, ha 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 ha. Jada Pink, a little bit, but then it shifts, right? She gets all sour, and then he immediately walks up and goes and slaps.
And when he does that, she laughs. There's like footage where she's laughing.
So in my mind, I'm like, homeboy's like, what would Tupac do? Right? Tupac will go up and slap a bitch, right? You won't talk to my wife. Keep my wife's name out your motherfucking mouth.
That was gematria'd out too.
To me, man, it
exact words.
It felt to me like Will Smith was trying to be somebody he wasn't. I don't know. Again, I know I found some things out too about, him and his relationship with his mom and dad, and him basically wanting to, I believe, murder his dad for what he did to his mom, which is weird. But I just, man, like of all the times we've watched and followed Will Smith and all the things that I've known about him, and even the things I learned about him over the last couple of days, that just don't seem like a Will Smith thing to do. And the slap was kind of punk too, which tells me he probably ain't throwing a bunch of punches or slaps in his life.
Well, no, I mean so that's if you're looking at it from, I don't know anything, that just, that's just the most basic.
Right. And I'm not analyzing that aspect of it. It's just the dynamic of Tupac, Jada, Will, that whole polygamy thing, or not polygamy, but open relationship thing. How she has openly talked about how, ride or die, just the bond that they had. And as a man, and you can't step into those shoes because that's just not you. It feels like heavy. You know what I mean?
Cute story. Yeah.
Cute story. What?
No, like, yeah, I get that. And I totally get it. Like everyone has a life I mean, it's layered, but everybody has a life within those layers. Right. And that may have been some truth to that. Right. So there's always some truth to that. The thing is that that's just a perfect story for what happened. Like people are going to start digging. People are, like you did, people are going to start looking at his life, and they have to piece it together. And you know very well that everything is pieced very well in the beginning, and then the right seeds are dropped throughout so that eventually when something does happen, it all looks really well. You understand?
Yeah, for sure.
So I think a lot of that could have also been just, the little follow the crumbs. Eventually, when this happens, you got all these crumbs there, and it's like, oh, this makes perfect sense, Until
on why he would slap Chris Rock, because he has a jealousy. And
first of all, it was a slap, like it looked like a bitch slap, like.
Well, let's talk about that.
And it looked like a slap that an actor would act in a. There was actually video footage of him showing this kid how to properly slap and make it look like it was real, right? For acting purposes. And if you were going to pick any actor out there to act something out and make it look real, would you pick Hollywood? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, of course. Well, and too, like a slap is so much more disrespectful, in my opinion, than a punch. right? To slap another man versus punch another man, that's just really.
All right, so let's just talk about. I'm dying. I'm dying.
You are not feeling anything I'm saying.
It's not that. It's just I'm dying to get to the other stuff. You know what I mean?
To
like
the conspiracy.
It's not. I mean, fuck that. Like, it's not even about that. It's
go.
You know that they all start popping out right away. Like yes, there's conspiracies, but it's not that. It's people doing research and analyzing it. Okay. Yes, some might go way to the extreme and whatever, but there's a happy medium. There's truth within all of this stuff, right? And just like there's lies within it all. So you have to go dig deep and try to search which ones are the truth, which ones are lies, right? Discernment. The way that he leaned forward, okay, the way that he braced himself for it, with his arms behind, the fact that there's talk around about the humiliation ritual, which happens, and it just happened to happen when it turned into Aries
ritual.
Yes, for like the whole Masons, you know.
So you have to humiliate yourself in a public way on national television during the Oscars.
However it is some type of ritual. And so then when he accepted his reward, or I mean his award, you know, he did the freaking symbolism with his hand inside his coat or whatever, which is the whole Mason thing, right? And then if you start looking at all the symbolism, which you have to look at symbolism, there's all the hand symbols with him and with Jada and all that, which is like, oh, I didn't want to see that because I actually like him as an actor, but it's there. Like, you can't just dismiss it just because you like the actor. It's there. And you can't be really high paid and really up there and really famous unless the ones that run this world allow you to be, right? So you got to be on their side. And when it comes to sides, you guys know I stand for the good guys. So when it comes to good versus evil and all that stuff, you know, that's where things change. And that's where I start looking at the layers, because it does not add up. It actually does add up, but on the side of it being planned, staged, whoever was sponsoring it, the talk about alopecia and all that, when that's just predictive programming about.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, because that actually is one of the reasons why I think that it's staged. If I had to bet, I would go stage versus unstaged, and that's one of the big reasons why. Like, our dog has alopecia. You know, she's got spots all over her body where she has bald spots and she doesn't have hair. You know, Jada has a perfect, like, my head is shaved. There's no spots. I've got hair on every inch of my head, around my head. If you look at Jada's head, it's the same as mine, at least on the bottom half. There's no spots.
So what is everybody talking about? Alopecia, alopecia, alopecia. What is that company coming out with a drug for alopecia?
Yeah, I think they're in phase 3 back in August.
The company sponsoring the Oscars.
The Riser company.
Come on. I mean, nobody would even know the Oscars was like a thing or what was happening with it if it wasn't for this huge distraction or this huge, like, hey, let's talk about these things. G.I. Jane 2, isn't that coming out or something?
Don't know.
Or whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? There's so many things that are like, let's get your attention over here. And then, like, what's the distraction? I'm always looking, okay, let me look elsewhere to see what's really going on. What are you looking at? G.I. Jane 2? Fresh Prince of Bel-Air 2. I mean, not 2, but the sequel, or not the sequel, but the reinventing of it comes out this year.
Yeah, I don't know. Should have looked that up. Yeah, I don't know.
The point is that there's just so many other things. And what gets me is that we as a society are so quick to believe everything and to think that everything that we see is real, when in reality, nothing is what it seems. That's the part that I feel like is important to talk about, because if you believe that, if you're easily believe that, then you will easily believe, and that's Hollywood we're talking about. I mean, Hollywood is like the most fake, the most, you know, acting based. If you can believe that, think of all the other agencies that have you believing in their stuff, right? Science, education, medical, the government, NASA, like all these companies that are government agencies that have you believing things that, are they real? You know what I mean? So if you can believe this, then of course it makes it really hard to believe that anything else could be
But
with malintent.
That's a big jump to say that, education, science education specifically, not to get into details, is, if you believe that, then of course you're going to believe that this is like a real act. You know what I mean? That's a big jump. That's a big. That's
but
a big
you know
valley,
that's
or big
that's
canyon.
a big. That's
No,
a
I do.
huge one that has a lot of people still believing.
I do, but I would also probably bet that maybe the majority of the people, even anyone that's listening to this or watching this, probably isn't going to be in that line of thinking, right? That education, science, germ theory versus
but you know what? That's just where they're at. That's where they're at. And that's fine. We were there too. We were once there too, where we thought that education and science and all this had our best interests, until we started really doing our own research, educating ourselves truthfully, not by the system, and realizing that the science was like some type of club, not real science. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that all, when you're in the world of watching television and the news and what time is it and all that stuff, you are literally still in the matrix, still believing everything that is being told to you in that matrix. But when you step out of that, you see it for what it really is.
No doubt. And I think, it's funny because like you very much analyze things from that perspective, right? From the everything is not as it seems. I see and understand that perspective, and I totally understand everything you're talking about. But at the same time, I don't look at it initially in that way, which is funny because this is fun because like we're both talking about the same thing, but we're talking about two different subjects and trying to like mesh them together, which is hilarious.
That's what we do.
But like Will Smith, I mean, my man is sitting there yelling at the top of his, well, maybe not the top of his lungs, but yelling vehemently.
And he just happens to be sitting right there.
Yeah, at Chris Rock about his wife and take her name out of your mouth. Says it 2 times, right? Now, this is at the Oscars. Very, very, hoity-toity event.
Smarter than that.
Right, and that's where I was going with this. Like, come on, dude. Like you laughed at first, so did Jada, and then I guess you got butthurt.
And nobody was there to stop it.
You guys have an open relationship in which you experience sexual acts with different people, and you tell each other about it and talk about it, and you got that butthurt over G.I. Jane and alopecia. Come on, man. Like that's the way I analyze it. I'm like, yo, that shit don't make sense. Like that just doesn't make sense. One of my favorite things about Will Smith was, when he's transitioned from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and his first major blockbuster movie was Independence Day, right? And I remember hearing an interview where he talked about how he wanted to have his breakthrough, like in the film industry, and it had to be something that was like science fiction, right?
Yeah,
had to be action packed. And I can't remember if Aliens was a part of it or not, but it just needed to be sci-fi based. Hence Independence Day. And that's sort of the film that jump-started his career. So the dude's a smart dude, is like, to your point. So it's like, why would you lose it over that? Right? It just doesn't make sense. I mean,
I get the sensitivity to the subject of his wife having that, if she did have it.
And hold up, but sorry. And that's the thing, is like, if you go back to looking at her head, we've been watching Friends, right? I've never seen all the episodes, so our daughter's seen it like 6 times. We all agreed to watch it through and through. Well, last night we watched the episode where Ross draws on Rachel's face. Okay. And the whole experience was she was embarrassed to go out in public because everybody would look at her, make fun of her. Eventually Ross drew on his face, and they went out and had a great time because they were drunk as shit. But my point is that
I'm like, what's this?
Rachel's uncomfortability in going out was because she had a noticeable difference on her face. While a shaved head for a woman is noticeable, you know what's more fucking uncomfortable? If you got spots all over your head where your alopecia is truly showing. So my point is that had she had alopecia symptoms showing on her head and he cracked that joke, I can kind of get on board with like getting upset. Like, come on, man, you making fun of my wife because she got a big old cancer tumor on her face.
Right.
But that wasn't the case. She just simply had short hair that was even as even could be. Looks like anybody who has a full head of hair. I want to
now get somebody to like do a video of her head, because I want to like inspect it and be like, do you have it or not?
Right. So, the point in the Rachel thing is that she had no visual signs of the issue that if she had visual signs, I could see you getting a lot more upset.
Right.
Right. But she didn't.
Right.
So again, that's another thing, a way I look at it. I'm like, yo, this don't make sense. It just doesn't, nothing about it makes sense. It's just ridiculous on all levels.
Well,
But
and
back to the conspiracy.
no, but I think that it's waken. It's look, 2020 had a lot of people wake up to like, okay, what's really going on? This is bullshit, right? So all these people now that are waking up and that have been waking up since the whole 2020 thing, you know, that stage of researching and like questioning everything. So now a lot of things like this have happened throughout the years, but nobody ever questioned it because nobody was truly awake yet, right? Now that there's so many people waking up, then this happens and a lot of people are questioning it because they're like, again, I don't know, you know, you have this aftertaste in your mouth after all these, the vaccines weren't, they don't want all this crap about, you know, what's really going on. And now we have this, you still have that what's really going on. So in a way, I think it kind of it's a catalyst for people to wake up even further and actually go, what is actually going on? So in a spiritual sense, it's like an awakening. And especially because it happened in Aries, like, yes, there's Mars there, the fighter, the beginning of a whole new cycle of rituals that they do and whatnot, because they know they're the illuminated ones. They know more than they want the masses to know, right? Then there's the whole good and bad, and that's a whole nother story. But they know the symbolism, they know the energies of, I keep going like this because of our thing that we had in the past. They know the energies of the Mazzaroth, of the cycle, right? They know when to use these gates of portals of opening to the new season to get the energy of the masses.
Yeah.
So they can like consume the energy of the masses in a way, right? And because everybody's talking about it and their energies are all up, they're like, oh yes, let's take this in a metaphysical, spiritual way.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too that I kind of enjoyed, doing a little bit of research online, was that like the collective consciousness response to the event, if you will.
Right.
And it was either almost like one or two things. It was either they judged him for what he did in a bad way, like his award should be stripped, he should never come back to the Oscars, or good for him, he stood up for his wife.
Right. It's very split. So that's where you can see the whole 3D, 5D, like everyone is like splitting in that whole dimensional thing. You can like see it in every aspect now.
Yeah. And so that was fun, kind of looking at the collective consciousness aspect of it. But I'm like, still, man, it's like, you know, whether he should be stripped of award or not, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me, you know, sticking up for his wife. And again, that goes back to the reason why I brought up the Tupac thing. You know, we've been in a situation where I've stood in the same room as, you know, the individual that she was in love with. And let's be real talk. She was in love with, and it was the same thing. Jada, I haven't read anything that said she was in love with Tupac, but I think she was. It just wasn't on an intimate level. It was like a spiritual level, bond to bond.
You get it?
That's where, yeah, I get it, and that's where, you know, I understand that. But also as a man, and I think as a woman too, when you have that person that you know you have to compete with. And why do you have to compete with them? Because they have something you do not. They have a piece of something that they give you that you cannot offer. And it's unsettling. And you want to step into that sort of like emptiness, if you will.
I get that. Let me ask you a question then. If you love, let's just say me. So let's just put it on us. It makes it easier. If you love me.
Yay. Yeah.
If you love me, right, and you would want me to be happy, wouldn't you just be accepting of the fact that I am completely happy with that aspect that they hold and with you? And that's what makes me, and I don't need you to give me all of that when
yes, absolutely. A mature individual, of course, that is the response that would be given. But again, back to the Tupac thing, Will Smith openly has said, like, it irked the shit out of him. It made him, like, he realized he wasn't man enough to handle this situation. So again, I go back to, why would he react that way? When you break it down, that You shaking your head?
I'm shaking my head because I'm saying as you grow, you learn to not do things like that.
Yeah, but if he was, I'm being judgmental. Do you think, let me ask the question instead of the statement. Do you think that a woke individual would do that under the, okay, then. So how woke is he? That's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Exactly. So if he, maybe I'm understanding.
So I shook my head because I was like, he wouldn't do that.
Exactly. So right. So that Atlanta leads credence to it being fake. But if it wasn't fake and it was real and he got emotionally he got emotionally worked up, it has to be something to do with the whole Tupac dynamic and the fact that he has an emptiness within him and he saw the opportunity to, you know, be thug and go up there and slap Tupac. Slap Chris Rock. What would Tupac have done? I don't know.
Probably
Tupac.
Sit back and not do that.
Right. I'll get him after the show.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. You a thug? What would you do? That's what you do, right?
I'd be
like I get him after the show. Watch.
You.
Okay, that's cool, man. Make fun of my wife. Right?
Where's the Black Panther?
So regardless, again, I don't know if it was fake or not. We'll never know for sure if it was fake or not. But
even if there was partial truth in that, which there could have been.
You talking about what I'm saying?
No. In him doing that, right? Let's just say that he did feel that way.
Oh, you mean in him slapping?
Yeah, and that inside he felt like what you said, like he's doing that to Tupac, right? Like in his mind, like there's some validity. But on the outer shell of it all, the whole, no big organization like that is going to allow something like that to happen. Like,
yeah, and it goes back to, okay.
So,
oh God, conspiracy theories.
They're just you. Why does that bother you so much?
No, it doesn't bother me because
when the word itself is like a CIA made, like to make everybody believe that conspiracy theories are bad.
Because the connection I'm going to make, and it's the first thing I said to you when we first started talking about this. It's like, is there no security at the Oscars? Like, how are you allowed to just get up from your table and walk on stage?
Why is your table the first table and there, so conveniently put right there so that it takes no time at all to walk?
But you know who I do have respect for if this shit was real? Is Chris Rock. Because homeboy stood there, let him walk right up to him, let him load up,
exactly,
and
who would do
slap
that?
him.
Who would
and
do
he
that?
He did not
had his
react.
Hands behind his back. Who does that and puts their hands? If somebody's coming at me, I'm gonna put my hand up or something.
Because Chris Rock was basically like, that's a bitch slap.
He went forward. He put his face all hard so that he would be ready to take it. He knew exactly what to do.
Yeah. So there was no security, right? I don't understand that. And it's similar. This is why I said, oh God, with the conspiracy things. That was the first thought I had when 9/11 happened, right? How does a plane go that far off course and nobody is alerted? Mm-hmm. How does a plane fly into the fucking Pentagon and nobody is alerted? No where's the security at? I'm not an aviation expert, but I'm pretty sure if you get off your design flight path, there's going to be a problem pretty quick. Try flying over and down to Antarctica over the ice wall and see what happens. How come that is immediately... Yeah, shoot you down if you cross that no-fly zone into Antarctica. Come on,
because you got to save the penguins.
So again, it's like, yeah, you got to keep the penguins safe and the ice safe.
I can get a little bit overboard.
Cool, man. You got anything else?
I think we pretty much got it all, right? There's pretty much at the end of the day, you have layers to it all, right? You have the I'm living it out layer. In this earth dimension, right? Then there's the water dimension of higher consciousness. Okay, I'm
so wholesome.
I'm living it out, but I can also see the symbolisms, right? Then there's the air, Bel Air, consciousness, where you are so connected that you don't really give a shit, right, of what's going on in that earthly world. And then you have fire, right? You're completely renewal of the mind and you see everything for what it is, and nothing from air, water, or earth can phase you because you see the code, you see the matrix, right? And once you have that renewal of the mind, it's your kind of your job. It's kind of like you are Neo going back to let people know, hey, wake up, because you are still stuck in these 4 lower, dimensions that you need to wake up from.
And I think that's like the whole reason why we wanted to use this as a subject, because it's like, if Riser is sponsoring this event, Riser's getting ready to come out with a quote unquote pill something, I don't know, that has to do with
Treatment.
alopecia, an
Right.
alopecia treatment. Of course, you bring that into the mass consciousness of the country, right? The world, I don't know, the country. And alopecia is on everybody's mind,
And
right?
why is that?
Well, as well.
Why is alopecia a new thing now?
Don't know.
So they're saying it could be the G.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Or as a result of the
Whoa. A lot of blocked
right
references.
Yeah. So keep on the lookout for a lot of people losing hair.
Yes, and that again is to kind of bring it back home. So many sidetrack conversations, but bringing it back home is the awareness, right? It's the awareness of the patterns. Start to see the patterns, right? Like I can't remember what if it was a podcast or something, but let's not use that. Yeah, let's use that as an example. The what's been going on over the last 2 to 3 years, right? There was, if you talk about the AIDS virus, can I say that? Ooh, no. So if you talk about the virus in the early 80s that was primarily in the homosexual population, that was targeted at a very specific population, homosexuals, right? Right or wrong or indifferent, that was the target. When it came out in the early 80s, I remember watching a movie on ABC, NBC, one of the major networks, and it was about AIDS. What was the movie with Tom Hanks? Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Again, homosexual. It was very
Philadelphia, born and raised.
Where's been most of my days. But the reference was you had a targeted population. When we got into what's been happening over the last 2 to 3 years, who was the targeted population?
The elderly.
Elderly people, right? So my point is that when you start to look at the patterns and you start to see that, another reference, maybe the food I'm eating and the chemicals in the food that I'm eating are causing the things that are happening in my body that are then being sold to me in heartburn medication, Tylenol, headaches, all of these things that should not be naturally occurring in the body if you're eating a whole food diet based on vegetables, fruits, grains, and such. So we've created a system of disease, we'll sell it to you. We'll sell you this, we'll cause the disease, we'll give it to you. We'll talk about alopecia, we'll create a thing. Oh, they're right. The dent is causing the alopecia. We're going to create something to solve your problem. Yay, look how awesome we are. We're Riser.
That is a whole nother episode, which by the way, is on Akasha Flick, Sweat for Life, where he talks about all of this, the ingredients and the
food specific,
right? And our health and wellness. So if you're interested on that, go check out Akasha Flick.
That has not yet been released, but it's coming.
Well, the series began. The first episode was out, and so the second one's coming out too. But there's a lot more episodes of different creators.
So this whole thing was more about talking about from a macro level
to the micro,
the connectivity, the like seeing the patterns and all this stuff. Because once you gain that awareness and you start seeing the patterns, it's like the fear they try to sell you, because like, oh my God, whatever, really, that's next. It just doesn't work, right? And then suddenly you just take things less seriously.
It's to take your power back, to become more empowered, to see the things for what they are and not be so gullible to let others blind you and walk you straight into the freaking, what's it called?
And I'll give you a perfect
concentration camps.
I'll give you a perfect analogy. If you had parents, or if you have grandparents, if you have anyone that's addicted to soap operas, right? Like when I was growing up, my dad would watch The Young and the Restless every day during lunch, like clockwork, right? And when we could record it, he would record it and watch it again, right? Now, me as a child, I'm like, what the fuck is this? Is stupid. This is the dumbest shit I've ever seen.
There's never an ending. What the hell?
Right. And not only that, but I mean, it's just drama filled, laden filled with bullshit. Like it's just complete, like just dumb. You start to see this stuff in the same way, right? Yeah. Like you see it, it's a soap opera, it's an act. It's all just leading towards the next step in the process. And that's what I mean. I don't know if that analogy makes sense. But
leading everybody
you see a soap opera for what it is, right? It's like the constant eye roll when you watch it and she's like, oh my God. And you're just rolling your eyes because you're like, really? Come on.
This is so fake.
Yeah, this is so fake. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, open your eyes. To see what's coming, what this might be a distraction for something else. So open your eyes to everything else. Just pay attention, have awareness, and yeah, that's it, right?
Yeah, man, this is fun.
Yeah.
We'll talk about some more real shit. Get off the deep shit, and we talk about deep shit, but like relationship, deep, heavy shit.
Yeah.
Have some fun.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Cool.
Thanks for watching. We're out. Peace.